Bill Simmons, sports guy, the Book of Basketball writer. Big news this week that he's leaving ESPN, who's been his home for almost 15 years now. Phil, what did you think when you first heard the big news?
You know what, if you watch any of his podcasts, Jalen Jacoby and all that stuff, every time, whoever's his co-host, like, don't get fired.
He's not getting fired. He's not
being renewed.
Well, essentially.
To me, potato, right? I mean, I'm not surprised. I suppose that's my answer to the whole thing. I think his call it brashness or his inability to filter as the standards for big media might want. It wasn't a fit. I think he's just going to do his own thing. It's just going to be interesting. Like, what happens to Grantland? Because is that not property of ESPN?
Yeah, I've been reading up a bit on it, and let's just rewind a bit. He's known for Grantland. He's known for the BS Report. He's also the co-creator of the 30 for 30 documentary series, which is groundbreaking.
Really?
Yeah, that's him. That's his baby as well. Wow. So apparently these are propriety items of the ESPN itself. So Bill's basically going off on his own. And, he has a lot of cash in his pocket.
He has a lot of resume. Like, he's going to get picked up.
And he has a lot of friends in all types of industries. So going forward, I mean, trying to think of landing spots for Bill. Obviously he could take time off. I don't think he will. Where do you think he's likely to end up?
Well, I think the question is, like, it's tied more to why he was let go, right?
Yeah.
Like, if he's let go because he's too brash, then is a major network going to follow suit and say, well,
depends on the network. Yeah. So, I mean, I'll throw one out at you, speaking on those terms. I mean, he needs a place, like you said, who has creative freedom and has because he's a multi-platform guy.
Absolutely.
He's the guys who made podcasts popular, who said, we can make short films, we can do audio, we can do this, that, and long-form essays. He experiments. I was thinking a potential venue for him would be HBO/Bleacher Report. Sorry, HBO/Vice Sports. Because they kind of have a collaboration.
He would really be building them up. Is it possible you think they're too small fish for him at this point? Because that's like maybe you could see it as a project where he builds them up, because I can see the partnership working. Mm-hmm. Like, I totally think your point makes sense. Mm-hmm. But at this point of his career, is he going to go to that kind of a level? Because let's be honest, the ESPNs and such are one notch above in terms of what they do. Mm-hmm. I think it is a good fit, mm-hmm. and I think ultimately other networks that are like ESPN are going to say, you know what, I don't want to take this risk. Mm-hmm. I'm really going to miss him for like draft coverage and everything. Like his Anthony Bennett reaction would.
I'm sure he's going to end up doing this somewhere else, right? Some kind of online. He's going to do some kind of online streaming thing if he's not at a major network. I mean, one person made a really good point that Bill. I mean, he loves all sports. He is quote unquote the sports guy, but basketball is the thing that's most near and dear to him. So I think he has to really have.
He loves him some Clippers and some Celtics.
Yeah, I mean, by far he was known as the Boston sports guy before he became sports guy, and so you have to think he has to go somewhere where he has access to basketball, specifically NBA basketball, and one other venue for him is TNT, who have their association with Bleacher Report. So they have that collaboration there. And of course, there's the kind of elephant in the room that Charles Barkley's contract is up this year.
But they still have to deal with Shaquille O'Neal, unfortunately. But do you not think it's the same thing, right? Like, would his...
Barkley gets away with a lot there.
I think because no one takes Barkley seriously, though. Because people do take Bill Simmons seriously.
Mm-hmm. Some people do.
Well, I do personally. And he's actually an inspiration of what...
Yeah, what we do.
Yeah, what we do. I think, honestly, your first suggestion made a little more sense in terms of the likelihood. I think the big networks are going to balk at this. Mm-hmm. And I think this is a huge loss for ESPN. Like I know
he's
ESPN's
kind of the face of the franchise, in a way.
Exactly. Like, honestly, there's a few other writers and reporters that I enjoy reading their stuff and watching, but he kind of takes the cake. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know, like, if he went to a Vice or HBO, or like you were saying, would that take the average fan or someone like myself and change venues?
I believe so.
Yeah,
it's like, what was it, Letterman went from NBC to CBS, Conan O'Brien. If you love what they do, you're just going to follow them. And because of the online media, because we live in the internet world, I got to mention this as well. Bill Simmons came to kind of his being around 2000, 2001 to ESPN, right when the internet was starting to take off. Mm-hmm. He really pioneered using the internet way to build a fan base and getting stuff out there. Because we have the internet now, we're going to be able to find him wherever he goes.
No, absolutely. And as a side caveat, have you not noticed ESPN's been pushing Amin El Hassan more this last 6 months.
And I like him, by the way.
I know, I do. But is it possible that they saw this one coming and they're trying to groom that next NBA guy?
Well, I mean, I think the final kind of nail in the coffin for Simmons was speaking out about NFL and Roger Goodall. I mean, we're not an NFL show, but like you said, Bill speaks his mind, and it wasn't the corporate atmosphere where he could do it any further.
But it hurts me as a fan, because that's the type of person I want to watch. I don't want to watch people giving cookie cutter responses that just say, praise the team, praise the organization. I mean, it's kind of a weird offshoot of our show from last week with the blogger who got fired from the Houston Rockets, right?
Right.
On different levels, but he spoke as sure, maybe he went too far, maybe the emojis did him in, who knows? And we went all over that. You can check out our old stuff, but I think it's kind of sad. And we saw some of that. I was watching some Keith Olbermann reports, and he speaks on this all the time. And these guys have to find their own platform. I would love a couple of those, quintessentially off the cuff guys to create their own network.
Yeah.
Like imagine a Keith Olbermann, Bill Simmons, like that kind of group, and play off the HBO or Vice, so there's no real content filter. I mean, that would almost be the ideal.
And I think that in a way that's what he's going to do. He's going to build his own group from scratch. And got to throw one thing out there before we wrap up this segment. You know who I feel really bad for? Jalen Rose. They were just like two peas in a pod.
But they also started going to the Jalen Jacoby thing more, right?
It's just Bill and Jalen was something.
No, I know it's not as good, but I feel like ESPN really saw this coming with both examples we just mentioned. I think he'll be missed. Bill Simmons will be one of these guys that continue to follow and continue to aspire to be like.
Yeah, and sports guy will be back. The guy is like the Spurs. He's zombie Simmons. He'll be back, and he'll create something that we never would have even figured. That's the way his mindset is, and that's why he's always been a trendsetter in this game.
Absolutely.